My daughter's teacher called her a liar for saying her father works at the space agency. What happened on parent-teacher night left her stunned. Hey Reddit, my daughter, Lily, is a bright, curious 10-year-old who loves science, space, and everything related to space exploration. Ever since she was little, she's been fascinated with rockets, astronauts, and the mysteries of the universe. It's not shocking, considering where I'm employed. I'm an aerospace engineer at the National Space Agency. While I'm not the face of missions, I'm deeply involved in mission design, satellite systems, and propulsion planning. Lily has always been proud of that, and she enjoys talking about it at school. But a couple of weeks ago, she came home upset. When I asked her what was bothering her, she hesitated for a moment. Then she finally said, "My teacher said I was lying." That immediately got my attention. She explained that during a class chat about space, she happily mentioned that her dad worked at the space agency. Apparently, her teacher, Mrs. Parker, chuckled and said, "Lily, lying isn't a good habit. Be truthful with your friends." She insisted that she was being honest, but the teacher doubled down, saying it was unlikely and that she shouldn't make up stories. Some of the students laughed, and the humiliation stayed with her the entire day. Hearing that made my blood boil. Not only did she shame my child in front of her classmates, but she also stomped on her excitement for something she was genuinely proud of. I could tell it crushed her. She even said to me, "Dad, you really do work there, right?" That broke my heart. The fact that my own daughter was questioning reality because of a teacher's arrogance was unacceptable. I reassured her she was telling the truth, and I promised I'd deal with it. Now, I could have gone to the school the next morning, demanded a meeting, and confronted her directly. But that didn't feel like enough. I wanted to ensure she never belittled a student like that ever again. And it just so happened that parent-teacher night was happening in a week. A perfect chance to clear things up in a way she wouldn't forget. When the day arrived, I dressed neatly but casually. I didn't want to look threatening, just like someone confident in what he does. Lily was anxious, but I told her to trust me. When we walked into her classroom, parents were chatting, talking to the teacher, and admiring kids' work on display. I waited until the room was full before I made my move. Mrs. Parker was speaking with some parents when I walked up politely. She turned to greet me, completely unaware of who I was. "Good evening. Welcome to parent night. You must be Lily's father." I nodded, shaking her hand. "That's right. I've been looking forward to meeting you." She smiled warmly, clearly not sensing what was coming. "Lily is a very bright student, very interested in science and space." "Oh, I know," I said. "In fact, she gets that from me." She looked at me with curiosity. "Really?" That my moment. "Yes, you see, I work at the space agency." The second those words left my mouth, I saw it. That instant recognition, the flash of shock in her eyes as she processed what I said. She opened her mouth, then shut it, as if debating whether to question me. Suddenly, a few other parents turned to look, intrigued by the conversation. "Oh," she finally said, letting out a forced laugh. "Well, that's certainly interesting." I wasn't letting her escape that easily. "Yeah, Lily told me about what happened in class." I continued, keeping my tone calm, yet firm. "She was really hurt when you called her a liar for saying I worked at the space agency." The color drained from her face. Several parents nearby leaned in to listen more. She stammered. I don't remember saying that exactly." I wasn't going to let her slide by. "Oh, but you did," I said. "Lily told me you laughed and brushed off what she said. You told her it was unlikely." So, I figured tonight would be a great moment to confirm that she was, in fact, telling the truth. By this point, the nearby parents had gone quiet. Mrs. Parker glanced around, realizing she had an audience. Her hands fidgeted, and she let out a nervous chuckle. Maybe there was a misunderstanding." I pulled out my work badge and placed it on the table in front of me. No confusion here, I said, my voice calm but steady. I've been with the space agency for years, specializing in aerospace engineering. Lily's always taken an interest in what I do. So naturally, she'd talk about it at school. The issue is, instead of encouraging her curiosity, you embarrassed her in front of her classmates. She looked like she wished she could disappear. She muttered something, but I wasn't finished. I understand that not every child always tells the truth, I continued. But when a student shares something about their life, maybe next time, consider giving them the benefit of the doubt instead of shutting them down immediately. By then, the other parents were whispering in agreement. Some gave me supportive nods, while others glanced disapprovingly at Mrs. Parker. She was clearly rattled, glancing around for an escape. I sincerely apologize, she finally said. I didn't mean to make Lily feel that way. It was just a mix-up. Lily, who had been standing beside me quietly, finally spoke up. So, do you believe me now? She turned to her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Yes, Lily. I believe you. And I'm truly sorry. I placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. That's good to hear, I said. Because she deserves to be listened to and respected, just like every student in your class. With that, I picked up my badge, gave Mrs. Parker a polite nod, and walked away. Other parents looked toward her before resuming their conversations, but the message was clear. She had learned her lesson, and Lily finally got the acknowledgement she deserved. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, something unexpected occurred. Lily came home with more to share, and apparently, this situation was far from finished. Update: the day after parent night, Lily came home from school looking far happier than before. There was a spring in her step, like she finally felt respected. But the moment she stepped inside, she sighed deeply and said, "Dad, you won't believe what happened today." I sat up straighter, my curiosity sparked. What happened? Lily dropped onto the couch and looked at me with wide eyes. Mrs. Parker was being extremely nice to me today. Like, overly nice. Too nice. That made me pause. I leaned closer. What do you mean? She shrugged. She kept asking me questions in class, trying to get me to talk about space topics. And when I answered, she acted all amazed, even though I've said that stuff before. And she didn't just do it once, she did it multiple times. It was strange. I frowned, trying to understand her motive. Was she overdoing it? Trying to make up for what happened at parent night? That was possible, but I suspected there was more. Did she say anything else? I asked. Lily nodded. Yeah, after class, she pulled me aside and told me to tell you she's very sorry. She said she didn't mean to embarrass me and that she hopes we can start over. That sounded like the kind of apology people give when they're cornered, not from sincere regret. But I didn't say that to Lily. Instead, I just nodded and said, well, at least she's trying to fix it. Lily let out a little laugh. Yeah, but guess what? Some kids in my class are still being mean about it. They keep saying I made up the whole thing and that you pretended to work at the space agency just to embarrass Mrs. Parker. That made my blood boil anew. It wasn't enough that my daughter had been embarrassed once. Now she was being teased because of an adult's poor judgment? And what did you say to them? I asked. Lily grinned slightly. I told them to Google your name. I chuckled at that. Good answer. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Mrs. Parker might have been trying to patch things up, but the harm had already been done. And if some of the kids still didn't believe Lily, I had a feeling this situation was far from settled. And I was right. Because the very next day, things took a surprising turn. Another update. I was at work when I received an email from the school's principal, Mr. Hayes. The subject line alone made my stomach sink. Urgent. Meeting request regarding Lily. I read the message carefully. Mr. Hayes wanted to talk about recent incidents in the classroom and asked that I come in for a meeting as soon as possible. No further details. No explanation. Just urgency. That's never a good sign. I immediately phoned the school and arranged a meeting for the following morning. When I arrived, I was brought to the principal's office, where I saw Mr. Hayes seated across from a very uneasy-looking Mrs. Parker. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Hayes said as I sat down. "We wanted to discuss the matter involving your daughter and the concerns that have been raised." I crossed my arms. "What concerns?" Mr. Hayes exchanged a glance with Mrs. Parker before facing me again. "It seems the events from parent night have caused disruption in the classroom. Some students have been teasing Lily, and Mrs. Parker has mentioned that there's been growing tension in class." I raised a brow. "And how is that my daughter's fault exactly?" Mrs. Parker quickly shook her head. "It's not. I mean, I'm not saying it is. It's just that some students are questioning things, and it's creating a bit of division." My jaw tightened. "You mean they're doubting whether I actually work at the space agency?" She paused before nodding. "Some parents have voiced concerns. They feel the situation escalated unnecessarily because it was addressed so publicly at parent night." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Let me get this straight," I said, leaning forward. "My daughter was called a liar by her teacher, embarrassed in front of her classmates. And after I proved she was telling the truth, instead of people accepting that, they're now upset that I corrected it publicly?" Mr. Hayes cleared his throat. "I understand your frustration, but our main goal is to make sure all students feel comfortable in the classroom." I let out a short laugh. "And what about Lily? She wasn't comfortable when her teacher dismissed her like that. She wasn't comfortable when her classmates laughed at her. And she's still not comfortable because they're still targeting her. What exactly are you doing about that?" Mrs. Parker stared down at her hands. Mr. Hayes exhaled. "We're reinforcing respectful behavior in class, but we also want to avoid unnecessary conflict." I narrowed my eyes. "So what's your proposed solution? Because if you're about to suggest that Lily stop talking about the space agency just to keep the peace, that's not an option." Mr. Hayes raised his palms. No, that's not what we're saying. We just want to maintain a positive environment." I shook my head slightly. "You know how you do that? By making sure teachers don't publicly shame their students. By ensuring that kids who tell the truth aren't mocked for it. And by addressing the real issue instead of pretending it's over." There was a long pause. Eventually, Mrs. Parker took a steady breath and spoke. "I truly am sorry," she said quietly. "I shouldn't have doubted Lily. I was wrong." It sounded more sincere this time, but I still wasn't sure it was enough. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "But words won't undo the damage to my daughter's reputation. If you really want to make this right, you'll have to correct it in front of the entire class." She looked visibly uneasy, but nodded. "I can do that." Mr. Hayes cleared his throat. "I think that would be a good step forward." I nodded and stood up. "Then let me know when it happens." And with that, I left the office. But even as I walked out of the school, I suspected this still wasn't the end. Final update. A few days later, I received an email from Mrs. Parker, saying that she had spoken to the class and publicly confirmed that Lily had been telling the truth. She apologized to her in front of everyone, explained that she had made a mistake, and even talked about different jobs at the space agency to educate the class. Lily came home that day looking more confident than she had in a long time. "Dad," she said. She actually admitted she was wrong. In front of everyone. I smiled. "That's amazing, sweetheart. How do you feel?" She shrugged. But there was a spark of pride in her eyes. "Better. And guess what? Some of the kids who were teasing me even said sorry." That was a relief. It didn't erase what had happened, but at least Lily wasn't alone in it anymore. Then she grinned. "Oh, and apparently you're kind of famous now." I blinked. "What?" Lily pulled out her phone and showed me a video one of the parents had posted from parent night. Apparently, it had gone semi-viral, with people applauding how I handled the situation. I chuckled, shaking my head. "Well, at least something good came out of all this." Lily nodded. "Yeah. And now nobody's ever going to doubt me again." And honestly, that was the best result I could have hoped for.